And Bam will now get to choose his particular sector, which is
Women's sector.
the women's sector. Okay. This is a long question, Bam. It says, state brutality is the worst form of violence against women. There is a deafening silence on the killings and human rights violations against women human rights defenders like Karen Empeno and Cheryl Cadapan, who remain missing, the killing of anti-mining Abby Capion and her 2 sons, plus many, many more women. What concrete actions will you enact to stop state brutality against women in particular? Meron pang pahabol na comment yung women's sector. Please, do not give us just rhetoric.
Thank you for the question. No? Una po, probably this particular issue on state brutality or mga missing activists or missing journalists is probably more than a women's sectoral problem, no? Because even men are also being killed, no? And palagay ko po, napakalubha talaga na until now, marami pa rin tayong journalists and activists who are being killed left and right or who are missing. Una-una, we need to enforce our laws better, no? And even if you're in the military or if you belong to the state, you're still subject to the laws of this land. Wala hong sacred cows dito, no? So palagay ko po, unang-una, we have to be able to implement our laws properly. If common citizens are being brutalized or being tortured or missing or being salvaged, the people who are responsible for this, especially if they're in the military or in the police, need to be put to justice, no, first of all. So I think it's an implementation issue. We do have enough laws to protect our citizens. Probably the question is, are we implementing these laws properly or not? It's not only in this particular issue, obviously pagdating sa crimes, pagdating sa corruption, there is a lot of things pa that we need to do, especially in terms of implementing our laws. But specifically for this issue, I think if we're able to really crack down on torture, on missing citizens, on activists, on journalists who are being brutalized, then I think we will belong to a more democratic and freer society. But I would agree that this is an executive department problem, and if I get to the Senate, we will definitely work on enforcing these laws better and properly.
Thank you very much. For former Senator, former Ambassador Maceda, can you please pick your sector? And that is?
Persons with disabilities.
Okay. Maraming pinadalang tanong ang mga persons with disabilities. So the question from this is a bit of a tough one. It says, kasama sa mga disabled ang taong may psychological or mental impairment. Papayagan mo bang bumoto ang isang taong may psychological or mental impairment na bagaman mentally impaired ay mamamaya naman? Bakit or bakit hindi?
Well, madali ang sagot dyan. Katulad sa krimen, pag ang isang tao ay may diferensya sa ulo o may psychological and impairment, ay hindi sila pinaparusahan dahil hindi nila alam ang kanilang ginagawa. Ngayon din sa pagboto, kung merong diferensya at may psychological problems, hindi nila talaga maintindihan ang issues and therefore they should not be allowed to vote. Pero kung physical disabilities lang pinag-uusapan, natural, lahat na may physical disabilities ay kailangan payagang bumoto. At natutuwa naman ako na ngayon, ang COMELEC ay kumukuha ng mga hakbang na yung mga senior citizens, yung mga people with physical disabilities, binibigyan sila ng special lane para sila ay makaboto ng mas madali. So, madali ang sagot. Kung psychological or mental impairment, hindi dapat pabotohin. Pero kung physical disability lang, dapat pabotohin.
Thank you for staying even before your time segment and for that very clean answer. JC, your segment is? Another question. I told you maraming pinadalang questions sa mga ito. JC segment is also persons with disabilities. Malaki ang problema ng mga persons with disabilities, bagaman habang kami ay persons with disabilities, hindi kami kinoconsider na PWD dahil ayon sa census ng pamahalaan, ikaw ay hindi PWD kung hindi ikaw sinecertify ng health practitioner bilang PWD. Alam naman natin na sa probinsya, minsan ay walang mahanap na health practitioner. Ang nangyayari ay kahit kami ay bulag, bingi, at talagang may disability, hindi pa rin kami kinokonsiderang PWD. Kaya tuloy akala ng pamahalaan, nakakuunti lamang kami at hindi kami binibigyan ng boses at hindi kami pinapakaringgan. Ang tanong, paano mo isisigurado na magkakaroon ng fair na census ang PWD para talagang malaman ang aming bilang? At paano mo rin sisiguraduhin na marinig kami ng pamahalaan?
Siguro po, padaanin natin yan sa local government. If provinces, cities, barangays would have their own census, especially sa mga barangays, no? I think mas komprehensibo at talagang mapipinpoint nila yung mga PWDs na nakakalat sa ating bayan. Yung mga PWDs, like for example, yung mga hindi makalakad, mas may karapatan pa yan kaysa sa presidente ng Pilipinas pagdating sa, for example, sa parking, dahil yung presidente may courtesy right to park. Pero yung mga PWDs, they have a statutory right under the Magna Carta for disabled persons.
Yes.
And so we have to take them seriously. And I believe we take them seriously by representation in the local government. And in this particular question, mas sigurado na hanapin ng mayor yan o ng mga chairman ng barangay para ma-ajuda sila. Yun lang
So
po.
sa local government, hindi sa
Yes.
national level.
Opo.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you po.
JC. At this point, I would like to turn over to Pia for our next segment.
Thank you, Ana. Our guests, former Senator Magsaysay, Bam Aquino, former Senator Maceda, and J.C. De Los Reyes will be taking questions now from the students of Far Eastern University. Let's begin with Joshua Babasa. Hi, Joshua. Joshua is a first-year international studies student. Joshua, what's your question and for whom?
Good evening, Senatoriable. So again, in behalf of all the Tamaraos, we welcome you to Far Eastern University. Now to my question. In light of recent events concerning fraternities and the accidents during their initiation rites, should there be legislation on banning fraternities inside campuses? And anyone can answer my question.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua. May frat dito sa FEU?
I think there are.
You think? Okay. Who'd like to take that question? Bam?
Una-una, no, I don't belong to a fraternity, no, so wala akong background with fraternities. But unang-una, any type of violence given to a fellow student is not acceptable. Hindi yun katanggap-tanggap. At dun sa aking naging trabaho sa National Youth Commission, marami kaming nakilalang mga youth organizations na yung pakay talaga nila ay kapayapaan, no? A culture of peace and not a culture of violence among our youth. So for me, any type of violence among different organizations is not acceptable. There are some fraternities that do not espouse violence. I think we should support those fraternities. I don't think we should go as far as banning fraternities inside campuses, but we should be very serious, seryoso tayo, tsaka seryoso yung implementation natin pagdating sa mga fraternities na nagbibigay karahasan sa kanilang kapwa, mga kapatid, no? Maraming mga youth organizations akong nakilala na hindi naman nangangailangan na manakit ng kapwa para magkaroon ng pagkakapatiran o pagkakakaibigan, no? And I think it's an oxymoron na magsasakitan tayo upang maging magkapatid tayo. So I think we should promote youth organizations, we should promote a culture of peace, and try to get these fraternities who have a long history to start treating each other better and properly and as true brothers, no? And hopefully, we will find more fraternities and more youth organizations supporting each other and helping each other to reach their goal of brotherhood rather than hurting each other. Thank you very much.
So would you need legislation for that, Bam?
No, you don't need
Hindi na.
legislation for that, but we need to support our youth, our positive youth organizations more, no? There are many moves already to support mga youth organizations. For example, yung 10 Accomplished Youth Organizations Awards, which is one of the foundations that I also support. Sinusuportahan yung mga youth organizations na mayroong mga proyekto sa mga komunidad. At sigurado kami na itong mga organizations na ito, hindi po nananakit ng iba at hindi po nananakit ng kanilang kapwa-miyembro.
All right. Thank you very much, Bam. And thank you, Joshua. Second question will come from Kevin Ganchero, third-year political science student. Kevin, what's your question and who is it for?
Good afternoon. My question is for every senator, and I hope every candidate for senator will answer this question. So my question would be, for the sake of argument, why did you choose to run as a standard bearer of the party that you're currently in? And secondly, why should we students support the platforms of your parties?
Thank you, Kevin. Senator Magsaysay.
Yes. Well, the most important thing is that you believe in the leadership of the party. I chose the Liberal Party because I've been a liberal for a long, long time. When I was a 27-year-old congressman, I was one of the young liberals under Jerry Rojas and Ninoy Aquino. Of course, this was in the late 60s. We were called the Young Turks. And at this stage, the son of Ninoy Aquino, now President Benigno Simeon Aquino III, has shown his capacity for reforms. This is very important for our country, our government, and our society because unless we have reforms, kung wala tayong pagbabago, walang asenso ang Filipinas. In the 60s, the Philippines was only second to Japan in terms of progress and competitiveness. This was 50 years ago. Suddenly, after 50 years or 60 years, we are at the bottom. We're way below. Even Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, countries that we were laughing at 30, 20 years ago, are laughing at us. We're way below. We're fighting with Myanmar, the former Burma. Why? Because we lack moral leadership. We lack continuity. And now, at this stage, President Aquino is showing the way, the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Magsaysay.